Good evening, and welcome to the City of Bloomfield Hills City Commission meeting for June 9th, 2026. First call to order is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions, comments?
Yeah, I do. In the minutes, I looked through the list of the people who spoke in regards to the Hickory Grove Losser study. We had a whole room full of people. And of the 6 that are noted, I just wanted to inform the commission that 4 of them are in 48302, not in our city. And I'm not sure if even some of those 403s are. But
Amy, do you have some detail on that?
None of the people that spoke at the meeting are from the city.
So none of them are.
Also goes into the township. So the individuals that were here last month, all of them were township residents.
that's what I wanted to point out. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have anything else, Commissioner?
Their address reads 304, but is that the case? Even though they're 304, they really are. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
I might, hang on. Sandra, on page 3 of 8, kind of in the middle, it says miscellaneous professional services, 123,000. Are those legal fees, law fees? Is this for,
So
it could be anything, but
it is for a handful of things, so it could be, Manquin Vance is our agent for our benefits, so they go there. Who else? Off the top of my head, that's the only one I can think of. Oh, we also have, who does our audit at the end of the year. They do.
Okay.
It's not our auditor's fees, but it's other fees related to the audit. Disclosure statement goes in there, but no, to answer your question, the legal fees actually have their own line item or their own department.
right, I saw there was, but I didn't know if it was added in. Okay,
No, that would be on page 4.
thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? I had just a couple as well. Chief, I've noticed, for the record, I want to make everybody to know that you are making a concentrated effort on Woodward Avenue to try to reduce the speed and everything. You had 211 traffic stops resulting in 139 citations, 2 arrests for reckless driving. So thank you for your efforts on that. I know the residents of the community are happy about that you're out there. The other thing I just wanted to note is the medical emergency that you delivered a baby, the police did.
The officers did a fantastic job making sure Ron and Dee were safe. Successful delivery and on their way.
Well, that is something that they will remember. My dad was a cop for years, and he bragged about delivering 5 babies. Nothing else, just those 5 babies. So, thank you. Jamie.
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome.
I like the seat back there.
I'm like going, where? No, Leah usually sits like right up front. I'm
No,
just,
this is my plan to get the seat. So I
okay,
just
got it.
stay there.
Got it. So we're gonna, I'm sorry I missed the last meeting, but I see mid-June you're gonna finally start the Chesterfield culvert.
Yeah, the letters have gone out, and the contractor is gonna start mobilizing, and as early as next week, that road will be closed. And then for the work, it'll be open for crews.
Is it just, we put up road closed signs, or how do what's the procedure for that?
So there's a whole series of signs, because we don't want people getting all the way there and watching
Right.
the road closed. So there's detours posted, and there's signs up to say road closed ahead, and to shift people off the street before they get there, or turn around at Lake View or up one of the other subdivisions. So up at Woodward, there's signs, and down at like Lowell Core, down there, those signs will be posted. There'll be signs as well.
Part to it, okay.
Yeah. And then the residents they'll figure their way out coming from which way, for a little while, and then it's not too long one project, but it's, enough. So letters have gone out to the residents nearby.
Okay.
And so we put them all on the list. Yep.
So they all know
Yep.
that it's good, that it's gonna happen. Okay, great, I appreciate that. And on other business, I'll talk about Woodward, if you can remind me, okay? Because I'll ask you about, you're not having anything to do with the culvert on Woodward, right?
No, it's not that project. Leah, we've been tracking along, the staff has been working on it, but that's ultimately MDOT's project. And then we weighed in whether or not, I think you might have weighed in before on full closure for a year or half-width closures for part of the year. I think you guys weighed in on that in the last round of public comments. So
Okay,
I'm not aware of the schedule yet on that.
okay, all right. And thank you for Dave and Amy for the Express Waste Service report that we had in there.
It's
So
going well.
starting, it's going well
It's
for it.
going well. You know, we're getting a lot of compliments actually from residents. Expressways.
Okay,
The change.
okay. All right, good.
Unfortunately, I was missed twice, as was two friends of mine, so I really appreciate Amy. You've really helped me out, so thank you. Everyone at the city that's helped call and follow up. And they did eventually come, so.
I think you had two people at your house after we got the last phone call, so you have the supervisor that's making sure, so.
Oh my gosh, that's so
I know that
nice.
your
And they picked up today, so I was
road
like
is-
so excited.
Yeah, your drive makes it a little confusing for a new driver, and I think that was their issue, but I
Yeah,
think
I'm
it's resolved.
sorry.
So feel free to call anytime.
Really appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as is?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next item, recognition of citizens in the audience. These are individual comments, and they are limited to 3 minutes per person, and we would like it that it's not a item on the agenda for later today. I don't see anybody. Okay. All right. The next item on the agenda, the commission will hear an update on the land use study from Giffords Webster. Jill, as if you haven't talked enough already.
We'll do it all again for Commissioner Ackerman.
Yes.
But I do right.
Okay, so, this is our, it was really intended to be our, sort of our final update, kind of wrapping up the project, along with the timing of your moratorium, in this area. We do have a report that will follow. This is, just some general observations and a summary of our findings today. So, office data snapshots, the master plan and zoning review that we did, and then options or strategies and some next steps. So, as you know, our timeline, we started in February with City Commission adopting that moratorium on the city center to address increasing office vacancy and underutilization. So that was your initial direction, your initial thoughts based on the things that you were seeing and hearing. In March, we were asked to do the scope of work, and we've been working with staff and with the Planning Commission and members of City Commission who've been attending since that time. So our focus was the city center, but also considering the Woodward corridor as a whole, because we do have other concerns with other land uses in that area. So we have looked at, we discussed public input and the need to inform a survey for our market study. We had a lot of discussion about the kinds of questions that would go into that. Ultimately, we decided in the interest of time, it was best just to postpone that portion for now. We do recommend that as a follow-up item. We did glean the information from other sources, so we have a good handle for the market and what is supportable here in the area, and that'll go into the report as well. Thinking about the findings that we have from here, it's also good to be thinking about what are the regional trends, what are the local trends, what are national trends with respect to office and mixed use areas, land use in general. We know walkability is becoming more important for residents as well as workers. There's a variety of surveys on this. And we won't talk much about the residential section because we know that that's pretty much, that's not really part of our study at all. Really, we're just focused on what do we need in the city center. We also know that retail and food and beverage surrounding office has become a significant driver of desirability. We know this is a trend, but we also heard it locally when we talk to people who are working in this area. And then aging office buildings, if we think about the buildings that we have here in the city, looking at their average build year for those different districts, C1, O1, and O2, you can see the average age of those buildings. And the needs, you can understand what the needs would be along with those. Thinking about Class A, Class B, and Class C, Class A spaces are really the state of the art. They tend to be very new. They're also location-based, so for that, you would have a lot of buildings here that would fall into that category. Class B buildings are aging a little bit, but still pretty nice. And Class C is your lower tiered group of office buildings. Again, they're not precisely defined, and so the response that we would get if we were trying to quantify that would generally fall into 35% as Class A, A minus maybe, and Class B is 50%, and Class C is 15%. And you can see what that is comparable in Birmingham and Troy. One of the things that we noted is that the Class C spaces in Birmingham are tending now to be targeted for demolition for mixed-use projects or residential projects. That we haven't heard that as a need or a want from anybody here in the city, but it helps explain why there's more Class A space too in Birmingham, is because there's more new things being built. I'm actually gonna go back to this one too for a second, because I want to note that the parcel, the project that we had at our planning commission meeting immediately before this involved 100 West Long Lake Road. That building was built in 1973. Excuse me. And so they are investing quite a bit of money into that building to reclad it with some new materials, replace the windows, add some architectural features to liven it up, make it look a little bit more interesting and attractive. But that falls in line with sort of the need here, right? So there's more investment that needs to take place in a lot of these parcels. Thinking about office users and who goes into the offices, we look to employment trends in the Detroit metropolitan area, so the larger region. Employment trends are cooling, maybe growing more slowly than the national economy. But we know the 650,000 square foot Hudson's Detroit opened last year, and it's 92% occupied. That's not new users coming into Detroit necessarily. There might be a couple, but mostly it's a reallocation, people moving from space to space.
It's GM and Rock Financials.
Right. I think there's a few small users maybe, but they're all, yeah.
88 of the 92%.
Yes, exactly. Oakland County's outlook is positive and stable, maybe a little bit more so than the Detroit region, specifically to Oakland County. But again, their growth is incremental. We're not going to experience fast growth. So what we're looking, I think, is a lot of stability. The auto industry conditions are always going to be a challenge in our local and regional economy. But we do see strong sectors in construction and healthcare. And healthcare too, because of the aging, not only the aging population in the city of Bloomfield Hills, but aging populations in our region, in our state, and in our country. So a continuous increase for healthcare services. We would talk about the COVID pandemic and its impact on remote work. We know a lot more people are working remotely. Maybe they have a hybrid situation where they go into their office a few days a week, but then they're home. We've seen a lot of increase in home offices generally. That the pandemic didn't cause that, but it accelerated trends that were already happening. AI is also changing the workplace. We don't know in what way that's going to happen. We know currently there's a demand for energy infrastructure that's growing, but with this technology, it's changing rapidly. That may not always be the case. We do hear a lot of people concerned, and I think fairly so, about job losses. Certainly there will be jobs that are lost to AI, but there could also be new kinds of jobs. If we think about people who teach the AI systems, people who interpret what the AI says, even, and I'll just do it like a personal thing, if we were to have an engineer, say, do plans, and they do an AI plan generated, someone's got to make sure that that's right. because AI makes mistakes, just like people make mistakes. So if someone has to know all of the things that go into that plan before we just dump it into AI and now we're going to go out and build something. So getting to that, this is more of like a global AI question, but how do we get from those basic skills that we're taught from the people who are learning how to be engineers to that next level of oversight and management? There's going to be a lot of training that's going to be needed and a lot of people who are professionals to do that work. So I think we would say that, yes, AI may have an influence in our office market, but we don't know to what extent yet. In Bloomfield Hills, you've got about 1.4 million square feet of office space, and they range in size. You've got about less than 10% that are 5,000 square feet or smaller. As of April, the sales of office buildings averaged about $192 a square foot. Some are lower, some are higher. Asking rents are $23 to $26.50, which is similar to surrounding Bloomfield Township. It is sometimes hard to parse exactly city versus township versus other market boundaries, but generally speaking, the vacancy rates fell between 20 and 30%, which is significant, but not overly so and not tremendously different from most of the region. But you can see in trends. So we talk about snapshots in time, but we also want to look at what are the trends. So the trends show that there is small increases in vacancy over the last 4 years, as well as small decreases in asking rents. So we think that that's a trend, something to watch. So I can pause there. Are there any questions about that part of the presentation?
So are you saying, can you
Yes.
just go back?
Mhm.
So you're saying right now we have 22% office vacancy?
It is, yes. It's
In the
I would say
city
it's in the range, right. It can change. A space gets filled, a space leaves. So at a moment in time, it's about this, but you can see sort of over time, that's what's happening. So I would say that that's a pretty consistent, if maybe conservative number.
Thank you.
So once we have kind of an understanding of what the existing conditions are, and this doubles up, and I you know what, I should have put, I think you were all at the last presentation that we did last month where we talked about the walkabout and the conditions that we saw and the people we talked to. I think you were all there. I didn't add that in because I thought we covered it. But anyway, that's all to say, we have kind of an understanding of the existing conditions in the office market in the city center district area itself.
Is the city center district renting that low?
What's that?
Is the city center renting that low?
We don't know specific to that. That's a general in the whole market.
Okay.
Okay. So if we were to think about, well, what would we do next? What do we look to for the guidance for that? How do we make land use decisions? Well, we have our master plan. That's what that document is for. The master plan informs the regulatory language and the standards that we have. So our master plan needs to be solid so that it can guide zoning, and then over time the zoning ordinance should be amended and updated so that it's consistent with the master plan. So the context for the future land use plan in 2009 were these items, and this comes right out of the beginning of the master plan. So this is really helpful to have as a framework for this study. So we haven't heard anything that would suggest that any of these factors are no longer applicable. It's still a built-out, low-density residential community. Preserving the character is of the utmost importance to residents and officials alike. That's very consistent with the way the city operates and makes land use decisions, and that's one of the key guiding principles of this study. Defining characteristics should be preserved and protected where they're established. We talk about single-family residential being preserved. And then the city's central core of offices, businesses, and city hall centered on Woodward Avenue and Long Lake Road should retain its prominence as the city's business node. And I made this observation with the Planning Commission that looking at some of the historical society's documents and maps, there is a notation of the Bloomfield Center at Long Lake and Woodward going back, I forget, I wrote it down, it's like 1839 or something. There's a map that shows it. It's very cool. I also was fascinated by the move of, which I never knew before, and I grew up in this area, that the railroad track ran alongside Woodward until it was moved, it was shifted, and I never knew that. So that was another thing that I learned that was kind of cool. And that Kensington Road was actually another, it had a different name. It was like not the baseline road, obviously it wasn't that, but it was something, Ballpark Road, or like some name for Kensington that actually had it being more of a center too, because it was right along the railroad tracks. It was very interesting.
We actually own some property, the city does, off Woodward. There's like chutes of property, and it was from back in the railroad, when
Yeah.
the railroad ran around Woodward, and the city bought the property because it was thought to expand the railroad. Well, then came the automobile. So we have
Yes.
these like strips of property we own. It's like, right, Dave? We did a study on it.
That's cool. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the future land use map, which I'll show you on the next page, that's our illustrative idea, our guiding principles of what we're doing for development and growth in the city over time. That's always included in there is the text description of that. So there's a land use designation called the city center. And the context for that is that it's home to a mixture of office, commercial, and public uses. The city center is a focal point for residents, workers, and passersby. Current uses are predominantly office and some internal small-scale accessory commercial uses, a few personal service establishments, a hotel, gas station, and restaurants, municipal buildings and uses. Consistent with resident survey, the intent is for, there were some other things there, the intent is for the city center to retain its current character of primarily office with some limited and supporting commercial to meet the convenience needs of residents and office employees within a 1 to 2 mile radius. And noting that larger scale or regional commercial needs are met at numerous locations in nearby communities. So with that, this is an excerpt of the future land use map. This again is not the zoning map. This is the map that informs the zoning map though. There's goals called out here related to the city center, goal 1D and goal 2C, and those are to provide for a vibrant business community confined to the area where it currently exists, and ensure that site design requirements for signs, landscaping, lighting, parking, building design, and materials result in high quality building and site development. Now, well, I'll talk about that in a second. I did this last time too. The action items called out related to city center, upgrade the site design standards, look at parking locations for sites, evaluate the need for a parking district, reduce parking requirements, and bury overhead utility lines. Those were called out in 2009. So we note that in 2015, design standards were added, and they provide the site and building design standards, landscape site treatment, and standards for miscellaneous structures and accessories. They apply to all development other than single-family residential. There could be an opportunity, and we'll talk about this in a second, to focus certain standards specifically in the city center area. The master plan talks about, in terms of parking location, accessory parking to be located behind buildings or well screened with landscaping and grading, and the ordinance is fairly consistent with those standards. When we get to the parking district, that is this area here. So again, this is our future land use map. This is our guide to development. This is our zoning map. These are the rules for development. This blue area is the P1 parking district. And basically, it just permits parking. In the 2009 plan, it said part of the parking area behind the offices at the southwest corner of Woodward Avenue and Long Lake Road may be ripe for redevelopment or wetland reclamation, as it is only seldom used. If such redevelopment were to occur, it should be consistent with the existing development in this area and should create a campus-like environment that complements the site, open space, landscaping, and building design features. You do still have the separate P1 vehicular parking district. It was established in 1983. That's basically for parking for those non-residential uses which are not able to provide adequate space within their own district boundaries. It was amended in 2023, that section, to prohibit any additional properties being zoned P1. And then with reduced parking requirements, there was a note about construction of excessive, seldom used parking is expensive and not good for the environment. There were, and it goes on, the last time the parking section 24-230 was updated was in 2010. And it was to minimize front yard parking and to relocate driveway spacing provisions for improved organization. And then there was a slight wording change in one of the subsections where the planning commission could require additional landscaping where any front yard, and the word any was added. It doesn't appear that the parking standards were updated since that master plan was adopted in 2010, since those other ones were done in 2010. There could still be opportunities there. Additional notes from the master plan. Cranbrook has highlighted several times, noting its National Historic Landmark designation a couple of times. And then there's one other mention of historic structures when it speaks about historic walls along roadways. So our note was that the city is rich with historical buildings and structures, many of which are located in the study area. Those buildings and structures add character of the city and may benefit from both protection and flexibility in zoning standards, particularly with respect to non-conforming conditions. So the city has done a very nice job of looking at and reviewing the master plan every 5 years, consistent with state law. So 2014, 2019, 2024. It was reaffirmed essentially as is, with only updating action items each of those 5 years. So these were the 5-year action items from 2024. We're still trying to bury those utility lines. That is something that I think will always probably be on the list because of the high expense and cost of that. Ensuring high-speed internet is available. Evaluating the city and zoning codes to improve processes, reduce costs, and et cetera. Promoting tree protection by updating the tree replacement requirements, controlling invasive species, and keeping current with state and federal laws. And also pursuing beautification efforts. That one spoke to obtaining grants and things like that to beautify the city in certain areas. So that's sort of the wrap up of the master plan. So we look there to say, well, what if we were going to make any recommendations or changes, we would want it to be based in this master plan, unless there were things that we'd learned in the findings of the market research and the existing conditions that would suggest that things needed to be looked at again in the master plan. So with that, some strategies to consider. So this one is based still on the 2009 master plan, but adding the city center to the zoning map would reinforce the intent and the vision of the master plan and the future land use map. So again, city center is all the red parcels, but when you look at the zoning map, there's a real variety of O1, O2, C1, P1, and this green dashed line is just my line that shows where that is in relation to the future land use map. So there's options for that. You could create a new district, city center district, and you could apply that to those. You could create a city center overlay, which wouldn't change the designation of those, but it would give you could put in standards like appearance standards, parking, uses, to provide a more cohesive and coherent look and feel for that area. Or you could rezone everything to C1 or O1 or O2, something that you already have that's existing. Consolidating 2 office districts into one. So originally when they were created, the O2 district was intended for larger office campuses, and the O1 district was intended as transitional district to buffer residential districts. But if you look at the actual locations, they're pretty similar. There are a lot of O2 parcels abutting residential and the O1 parcels that contain larger office buildings. So it could be an opportunity to just simplify and clarify the ordinance in that way. Many communities actually are looking at ways to consolidate or collapse their zoning districts because they're finding the same thing. They have multiple districts that are pretty close, but it's resulted in very complex ordinances. Your ordinance isn't that complex with 2 office districts, but that could be an opportunity to just make things a little bit more coherent and cohesive, looking at setbacks and uses that are permitted, while also being mindful of not creating a bunch of non-conforming buildings and structures as well. So it sounds easy, but it can be a little bit challenging. If we started looking at the uses, and again, thinking back to this map here that shows all the different parcels in their zoning, you can see how uses permitted in one building may not be permitted in the neighboring building if it's zoned differently. So the C1 district, medical uses are not permitted, but they are permitted in the office districts. Here, there's some that are right next door to each other. Personal services are listed with examples, and they include like beauty parlor and barber shops, interior decorators. I don't know why really that one ended up in that category, but there must have been somebody operating in that way at some point. There could be consideration given to small health and fitness studios. Think of like a small yoga studio or Pilates studio, but something that you can regulate based on its size to, again, minimizing its impact and being consistent with other things in that area. The O1 uses, the intent statement for this zoning district is includes the provision or the allowance of basic personal services, but they are not listed as permitted uses. So that may be a conflict that could be considered. Same thing with the O2 district. The O2 district, though, the Planning Commission can create or approve additional uses of the character of a personal service, administrative service, or limited retail business establishment. And what we would observe about that is none of those terms are defined. And so that can lead to uncertainty for an applicant, and it can lead to some confusion as the Planning Commission reviews. What would we consider limited? What do we consider a personal service? What do we consider an administrative service? And I think some of the strategies that help ensure a thriving business corridor, business district, is making sure that your zoning ordinance is clear, that it results in consistent application, and you get what you want out of it. So having clear standards that articulate your high quality expectations doesn't mean that you're going to, if you make a clearer process, that doesn't mean you're going to give things away, right? When you have a clearer process, you're going to tell people right up front what you expect. And so there's a measure of that you could consider adding in. The P1, again, that's this blue area on the map, which is 15 acres of asphalt. Sits behind Long Lake and Woodward properties. Again, you could replace that with a new city center district. You could add it into something else, or you could make it residential. That might be something similar to these Bardenwood condos that are here, those are probably at least 40 or 50 years old, is my guess. So there could be opportunities to be consistent with that.
Can I ask?
Yes.
When you say limited retail, what has been limited, Dave? Can you help shed light on what has been limited? What's considered retail allowed in the O1 district? Or what do we have now?
I mean, the only retail we really have is where the old Fox and House used to be.
Yeah.
That's really about it.
But that's O1?
Liquor store.
The liquor store, yeah.
C1.
That's C1. That's all C1. There's
Yeah.
no
So
O1.
you were saying in O1, it allows for limited retail?
In O2, it suggested that was permitted.
Do we have any retail in the O2
No.
district right now?
No, we don't.
And even within a larger building, probably not.
No.
No.
So that'd be like someone putting a Starbucks in their office building?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'm just
No,
trying
it's
to get
okay.
a sense of,
Okay.
sorry.
No, it's okay. So other strategies to consider: simplify standards for clarity and ease of application. And again, this could be done just in the city center area. It doesn't have to be in all of the O1 and O2 districts or C1 districts and I1. But particularly in the city center where all these parcels are next to each other, there could be some value in making them more consistent with respect to building heights, setbacks, and things like that. Also, having a table is really helpful, but all of the footnotes that go along with it, then you're going back and forth. Is it D that applies? And you're looking back at the list and trying to understand that. For easier navigation for property owners, it could be helpful to have that in a different format.
Yeah. I notice a lot less parking capacity is being used,
Yes.
especially on the
Next one.
what I view as my southeast quadrant, what I call this. Have you seen other communities where they built some type of building use or commercial use, that won't hurt the office? Maybe like the type of restaurants that would be open more in the evening, and then affect. I mean, have you given any thought to that for what you call the parking area, the 15 acres, which is clearly where the fur company is going to have to work out. Should whoever buys the fur company wants to use it for a real use, should be working in arrangement, even with the help of the city, in the form of property taxes, dirty word, and build out there. I mean, I just can't imagine it. You understand what, am I passing you by? Or,
Yes, so
Well,
are
there
you asking
residents
about,
behind there that really objected to that being a bigger building,
you mean the Annis Fur building?
the Dietrich Fur
The
building? They
fur-
all came in droves there.
I'm not asking for having a bigger building, I'm asking for putting some.
Well, I like that they've also come in concerned about the restaurant.
About a
We
restaurant.
just have to
yeah.
be cognizant of the residents.
I mean, they're next to a
But-
hotel that's been there for a long, long time.
Right.
And that's had that, that was a much more active hotel 30 years ago than it is today. Really, if you think about it. I mean, I look at that Annis Furs or whatever they call it, Dietrich Fur, and it just seems to me that if they wanted to have, an office there, because it's right next to an existing office building, and they had a shared parking lot with the 15 acres that's already parking, that it would alleviate a number of problems and make that location a very attractive office site instead of a second-tier hotel or restaurant. You follow what I'm saying by that? I mean, it's like, because I think that what they brought to us in the past was something that was pretty unacceptable. And, I mean, I just don't know. I mean, and if you do that and you had the right buyer and user, like we had a company office there, you might find other land that presently isn't available, like restaurants that's closed across the street, that at some point I'm gonna ask the question is, when can we demolish the building that's been vacant for 2 years? It looks like it's a trek in the middle of the city. And I don't understand.
yeah.
I don't understand why we've allowed that building to continue to be there. And it is not vandalized, but it really looks like it should be.
What are our options, Dave, do you know?
Do we have any options about doing something with that building?
Well, it's zoned commercial, C1, I believe. And, there's a lot of options. You can have some limited services, personal services there. You can have a restaurant there. You can have, there's a lot of things you can have there, but.
My question of that was, how long when does having a vacant building be vacant long enough that it shouldn't be there at all?
It's been vacant it's been vacant for years, for at least 3 years
Right.
or more.
Which one?
Do we have any vacant
Oh,
rule in
Dietrich
our?
I
has
don't
been
think you
vacant, but
have
not
any-
Little Daddy's.
Dietrich.
Little
Oh, you're
Dietrich's
talking about
been-
Little Daddy's? or something?
Little Daddy's.
Yeah.
Oh, Little Daddy's, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's probably been vacant for about a year and a half.
I don't think you have any vacant building regulations. I haven't looked at that, but we can look at
I was
that.
just,
I think they just have to we have an ordinance, they have to keep it up.
Exactly,
They have
light.
to have it,
Right, if
like,
it's,
the lawn has to be mowed, you can't have the, gutters hanging down. But we don't own the building, it's not like we can tear it down.
Right.
Right?
Unless
Are they
there
keeping up to the
was,
standards? It doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, we did, well,
It looks
so
pretty terrible.
there was a sort of a list of things. We did have them fix gutters and trim some things back, but like the back of it, it could be painted. The problem is it's probably gonna be torn down. So at some point, how much do we push someone that owns a property to do a lot of, almost gets like you're renovating it and they're gonna knock it down anyway. So I think
be nice if they not.
probably when this moratorium's over, there would probably be some movement on it. Unless someone wants to make movement on it before then, they can approach the commission. But our thought was we did get rid of the trailers in the back, we cleaned up the gutters, we did different things, but, you know, to tell the owner who's gonna knock it down, you gotta paint the place and paint the roof, you know, at some point, it's not being very understanding.
So along your lines of thinking with parking, the parking standards are still high, even though this is an auto-oriented corridor and people are arriving, for the most part, in their cars. There are bus stops, and if there were, once people get there, they could move about that area if there were sidewalks, in a way that maybe there could be a little bit more shared parking. So the city does have standards in the parking section for shared parking and deferred parking and parking waivers. But there could be some opportunity to make maybe a more tiered approach so that it's not so daunting to an applicant to be like, well, gosh, I gotta get a parking study, I gotta do it. Maybe there's smaller levels at which someone could say, well, can we waive like 10% of our parking? Can we demonstrate to you that we don't need all this parking? The other one is to remove the wall and berm requirement between adjacent uses. It's helpful to have a wall or a berm separating commercial from non-commercial, like residential, but is it really necessary between uses, and does that take up space that could be used for something else?
Between those office buildings on Long Lake, or on Woodward, south of Long Lake, I have to tell you, I think the barriers make sense. Otherwise, you get people racing their cars in the back lot there. They race them in the lots as small as they are. I'm a walker, so I used to walk to my office there.
But were you able to walk when there were walls?
I used to walk across
in place?
Long Lake. If I didn't get run over, I'd then walk through the backyard of that law firm, whatever it was, Jack Here's firm. Then I'd walk down the hill and I walk in the grass and try to avoid tripping.
Right.
And it was, but I mean, people drive pretty fast.
Well, then that's maybe that's something else to strategize on, and maybe we mitigate that in a different way. The wall and the berm, though, is potentially a cost that isn't necessary.
Right.
And it does, I think, hinder people walking back and forth between sites.
It does. I mean, I'd like, the thing that's really missing is that to go to lunch from most of these offices, you have to get in your car.
You do. Or someone gets in their car. When we were out on our walk, we saw a guy coming back and he had his 2 big bags full of food that he must have drawn the short straw that day and was sent out to go do the collecting of the take-in food or carry-out food. But we talked to other people who work in the area and they're like, yeah, I can't walk anywhere. It's really, and we walked, we crossed Woodward. That's not fun. You know, thinking about, and we'll talk about it again when we talk about walkability, but the bus stops that are there are a concrete pad. And we were watching people get to the bus stops. They walk through the grass, they walk over through the wood chips, over the berms. That could also suggest that there could be more walkability, really, and again, just focusing on the city center area, not expanding it and not saying that we need it everywhere. But here it makes some sense because there's uses people there that would use it. Also historic structures. So we said that could be increased in prominence. The zoning ordinance provides for relief from dimensional standards for historic structures, but they're tucked into a section on exceptions. So they could be overlooked by people who don't read through the ordinance page by page like some of us do. The section applies to buildings and structures deemed by the City Commission as historic buildings or buildings of architectural value. So you could create a whole new section in the zoning ordinance dedicated to historic structures and buildings where we offer guidance on how buildings and structures can qualify, encourage renovation and retrofitting, and provide standards in a clear and organized manner. You know,
Can I ask how this applies to our moratorium in the office space?
it's part of the larger corridor that we were.
Are there
asked to
some
consider.
historic buildings in the
Yes.
city center that,
Oh, in the city center?
yes, that
well,
we're
there-
studying right now?
No, not that we haven't been done, but there was the Bagley.
The Bagley Inn and
And
also
then-
the DeBoer building right across the
Right.
street. That's a kitty corner one.
Right, and they had to go
Um,
through with the use variant. I don't know what the other one Bagley did, but the 130 went through the use variance process, which was quite an ordeal.
It was, I remember that one.
So again, if we value something, let's make an ordinance to allow for it. And a little bit of proactive, I think, approach here with those is like really trying to go out and identify where are our historic structures and buildings. The Historical Society has a lot of great information. They've got like the little biking tour map that you can go on. There's a lot of good stuff there. But being a little bit more proactive with that, there might be a case for being more proactive about certain sites and buildings that you want to see filled with certain things, even. I didn't even get to that part in the rest of the strategies, but creating some kind of an economic development effort could be something that you do. That's, again, a little bit farther, obviously, than what we were doing. But once you get us going, it's hard to stop making suggestions. Other strategies to consider, the project at 100 West Long Lake, the architect, Mr. DeRozier, talked about a outdoor deck that they wanted to do originally, and they felt that they didn't ask for that. It wasn't on their plans, but they felt that that wasn't going to be received, so they removed it. But that could be something that is permitted. Unique, flexible outdoor spaces, maybe they're rooftop spaces, maybe they're garden areas at the ground level that are really pedestrian scale, and rather than thinking about them as buffers and screening, that they're more intentionally enhancements to properties, if that makes sense. Oh, and with that, when we say rooftop spaces, clearly there are, any of these suggestions would have standards that would go along with them. So there would be sensitivity, I think, to having a rooftop space right next to a residential neighborhood. So location matters, elevation matters, that use matters. So there's things that would go along with that. Just gonna point that out. Again, because we were looking a little bit beyond the city center, thinking about the institutional districts, they're evolving, these properties. We allow places of worship, schools, municipal and civic buildings, and nonprofit clubs. Convalescent homes may be permitted with certain conditions, but over time, we've heard a concern about whether we need more convalescent nursing or assisted living facilities, as well as some of the noise and traffic impacts that could happen in adjacent residential properties. That there might be some consideration for adding single-family residential. Maybe they're on smaller lots that can provide additional opportunities for property owners while complementing the adjacent residential neighborhoods. So again, residential to residential, thinking about less intense uses. Mixing even uses on sites could allow existing institutional uses the ability to sell maybe or lease their excess land. Maybe there are compatible uses that would help both groups. If you had an institution that had residential that maybe there's captured crowd audience for that.
Can you explain an example of that? I'm not the last one.
Mixing of uses, not anything.
An institutional site.
Yeah, not anything locally, but there are examples of churches where they've had, back in the day we had a church and it had a lot of land, but now they don't need as much. So selling off some of that land and building residential, often they're people, they're members of the church. They don't have to be, and I don't think at all they would never turn anybody away, but that kind of a use where it's very compatible with residential and the place of worship. It kind of helps both groups of people who can go, just walk right to church, as well as helps the church stay, because now they've got a little bit more revenue from that excess property. There are a couple examples.
We had that happen.
Yeah.
In the city.
Okay.
Yeah, we had it was a church and they wanted to sell off 2 or 3 acres, something like that, or more, and we didn't permit it. They wanted to put a
Oh yeah.
residential.
I think Temple Bethel's doing it right now.
I'm sorry?
What if they're selling their land? Developers?
Temple Bethel's selling his vacant land to the north.
But thinking about the need for that.
Mhm.
So, we know that those properties are evolving, and to try to get ahead of it a little bit and think about what would you think is appropriate there? What kind of uses, what kind of building forms, what kind of site designs do you think would be compatible in those contexts of those properties that are zoned I-1? Beyond zoning, streamlining the sign standards and the process for that, again, very consistent with trying to make things easier, clearer, and quicker to get through the approval process. It doesn't mean giving up your standards, it just means making them very clear so that people can meet them and they move on. Follow the recommendations from the 2009 master plan on improving walkability and design that promotes non-motorized transportation alternatives like walking and biking in the city center area. That's from 2009. You've got, this is the property on Long Lake Road with the stairway. You probably were talking about this, Commissioner Ackerman, down these steps and then to the back here. There's like a little light back there. So it's just a little, it could be improved, right? This is another area where it's a little bit hard to see in this photo, but there were people that were like making their own path through. You can see the grass is pressed down there.
Somebody has a business or whatever, has a picnic table, like, it's like this.
Yes,
on the
I
side.
think I
Did you
had that
see
in
it?
my last slideshow from last month. It's kind of sad. Like,
It's sad. It's like,
just there.
I
Like they
know.
wanted to sit outside and
Yeah,
eat their lunch that they brought from home.
but the table's like sitting like.
Yes. So you can do, you know, any level of that, either just promoting sidewalks and paths between parcels, maybe having a standard for that, to on the high side, developing a comprehensive network plan for the city center area.
I have
Yes.
a question.
Yeah.
I'm concerned if we, I mean, I love the idea of promoting paths between the office buildings. Okay. Is there a way to do that? Or does it, if we do that, does it have to be handicap appropriate and have all bells and whistles?
As long as there are ways that people can get around, some of them can be less formal. If you're going to install them, if you get grant money to install them, they will have to be ADA accessible. Yeah. But you can see examples of that, like if you're ever up north on the Tart Trail, for example. Shared use trail, you're on your bike, you're walking, you can see little made by the business owner, like wood chips or a little gravel path that lead right from the trail right into their parking lot, into their business. It was like a smart way of businesses just capitalizing on the traffic that's there. That's one that always stuck in my mind. I'm like, God, those people are smart. They figured that out. Like, these are their customers. But maybe to formalize that a little bit more, and you could do that too.
And I mean, this isn't something that, we talked about this in the planning commission, it's not something that the city has to put in. We could work with these businesses
Yes,
to have them put that in.
right.
Say,
It'd be good to have some standards.
I think
Yeah.
that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The businesses need to like be more, besides putting a picnic table on an angle is, you know, hey, why don't you do a walking path and wood chips
Yeah.
and, you know, or something. I just,
Yeah, keep the branches trimmed so people don't hit their heads when
Yeah.
they walk through. So some of the next steps that you could do. So there's a kind of a leveling up of things. So the first thing you could do is consider a zoning action plan. Thinking about some of the zoning changes that we highlighted in our recommendations, maybe prioritize some of the desired changes. You've got some guidance for those zoning changes in the master plan, the 2009 master plan. You could also facilitate roundtable discussions with property owners and businesses, understand their priorities, as well as maybe nurturing that partnership between the city and those property owners. You know, helping them understand what you're trying to achieve and having them help you understand what they're trying to achieve and finding common ground on that. You could also include community engagement with that resident survey that we didn't do as part of this process, which is really a bigger task, which we think you should do too. Considering a master plan update to further guide refinement of ordinances and other changes. So broadening the community engagement. The last time you did it was 2012. It's probably time to have another survey to tap into community needs and wants. It could be similar to your last survey that you did. You could modify it. But working with the residents and then also with property owners, I think would give you a real good feel for what people are envisioning in this area. If you did a master plan update, you could look at that future land use map and just assess the boundary. Maybe it's fine the way it is. Maybe there's a little tweaking that could be done. You could refine the vision for that area aimed at zoning standards. Things that really set the city center apart that's consistent with your master plan. And then explore and inventory historic building structures and refine strategies to ensure their ongoing maintenance, integrity, and use. You could go further and create a city center improvement plan where you could develop plans for the pathways, formalize what's currently informal paths, create standards that reinforce visually the city center area as a place. That could be through creating lighting fixture types and specifications, landscape standards. That is something that you could say then to a developer when they come in, oh, good, here's our lighting fixture types, here's our landscape and our sidewalk specs. You know, let us know where you're going to put that to connect to this network that we have. You could go further than that and consider public-private partnerships to leverage those improvements in the city center area through business improvement district. Those are taxes that are assessed to the property owners. Same with a special assessment district or a downtown development authority where you are working with tax increment finance. None of those require an outlay of cash by the city, but they're just all different ways of financing some of the things that you thought are good and worthwhile, and getting business support for that too. And that is the end of my presentation. So happy to answer any more questions that you have.
Any other questions?
Anything different that you heard the second time around?
Can you clarify the last three options of
Yes.
funding, any changes?
Yeah, business improvement district and special assessment district are sort of similar in that they are a defined boundary and the properties in those boundaries are taxed. And then the funds are going towards an improvement. So for a special assessment district, you might do that now for road improvements or sewer improvements. But here you could do it for other kinds of, maybe you're gonna do lights, maybe you're gonna do the sidewalk path. Same with the business improvement district, although it can fund a little bit more of a district activities. And then the downtown development authority can really go even a step further. It requires more staff, I think, than what you have today. And it's a little bit more aggressive, and you may not really need all that, but it's an option. Tax increment financing works by looking at the existing revenue that is generated in a district. And any time that each year as the tax value, assessed values grow, that increment goes back into the district for reinvestment. So there's no additional taxes that are levied. There are no additional taxes on the property owners, but that incremental difference is not going to the general fund, it's going into the district.
And it doesn't need a vote.
And
Except for by
also, you leverage other taxing jurisdictions like Oakland County, where those dollars are gone anyway. If you have a DDA or a TIF capture, you can, assuming they agree, can keep those dollars here. That's their way of saying that we agree that investing in this district is good for all of the community and the larger county as well. That's sort of the theory behind that.
There's some Oakland County, there could potentially be for that?
It would be, yeah, like, I'm trying to think, because Birmingham is the principal shopping district. What else is nearby that has, well,
Stadiums.
Royal Oak, say, has a downtown development authority. And there's a certain amount, there's a base year, whatever that base year was, probably in the 80s or early 90s. And all those assessed values, all those tax revenues stay with the city. And anything in there that was belonging to another entity goes out there to Oakland County. But every time there's an improvement in that district, that additional assessed value, the revenues from that stay in the city, and they don't go to the outlying jurisdictions like Oakland County. So they're very choosy about where they're going to participate in that. But this is a pretty key area too. So. But again, it does require, I think, a little bit more management. There's a lot more that you could do with it in terms of marketing the area, helping with improvement grants, assuming that you had, if that was something that you needed. It may be more than what you need. It's likely more than what you need right now. But throwing it out there is an option. Mm-hmm.
Any questions? Okay, so at the Planning Commission, each of the commissioners stated their thoughts, and the recommendation from the Planning Commission was that we go ahead and we should do a survey. We should use someone like Cobalt, which is a reputable survey company, and they have other information. And so that was one recommendation, is to, what we would be doing is asking Dave and Amy to go ahead and find some survey companies, Cobalt being one of them, because they've already done ours, and get some bids out there and find out just how much it's going to cost, and then come back in front of the commission. And this would be surveys from our residents, so that you guys know too. The second thing that came up, that the planning commission is, everybody was agreeing that we probably need to update the master plan, and we need to, some of the suggestions of elevating, you know, the historic district and all that that's kind of buried, that they thought that, yes, it's we need to take a look at that. So that was the other one. We probably need to get a quote on how that, what that would be, right? To do that, or no?
I don't think, to redo the master plan?
We don't have to do that? Okay.
I mean,
So that was,
we can discuss that.
those were the two main topics that, the third one I would tell you is, they gave a recommendation that all of this information should be on our website. That we need to share it with the community and let them know. So, given that, do I need a motion, Mark, on just to tell Dave to go look for it, or no?
I would suggest that might be the case. Also, just a reminder about the moratorium. It was last addressed in April, and the recommendation was to extend it 90 days, but it was extended only through June 12th. So the moratorium actually expires June 12th. So I believe if there's a desire to extend it, that be done tonight, and I would suggest the motion be made for at least a 60-day extension, but include in that motion these particular steps that are being driven, because this has already been in place for quite some time, and there really needs to be some progress made on it.
You need completion dates, Mark.
No argument here.
You're here, okay.
That's kind of why we were trying to, well, there needs to be some action taken, and I don't necessarily think the basis for the moratorium, as I understood it when it was initially implemented, I don't think it needs to wait for an amendment or a review of the master plan. I think there needs to be maybe some direction on some concrete methods to address the purpose of the moratorium, which was to address the perception of vacancy in office space in the downtown area, or the city center area. So I think there was some recommendations that were made before the Planning Commission, and again here, that could form the basis of it, that are still consistent with the existing master plan. So it wouldn't necessarily mean you need to amend the master plan. It would just be tweaking some ordinances. So, you know, maybe some evaluation or recommendations on what might be considered maybe stopgap measures to improve marketability of the office space in this area, while pursuing a more long-range approach that would be action taken after the moratorium expires. Because the moratorium, again, it's really a drastic move, and it really is for a specific purpose, and we need to show some progress toward an end date to ending the moratorium. So that would be my suggestion. I don't know what can be done there.
Well, that's kind of tough, because, you know, if I agree with you, we need to do some action on the moratorium. We're kind of kicking this can, but if we wait for them to get survey things and we don't talk about it till July, then the survey doesn't go out, and it doesn't go out for, and that's gonna take probably 3 to 4 weeks, plus you have to do it. we're into August. We won't get the results from the survey until August.
Well, again, this kind of goes back to, do we need to wait for the master plan to be updated? I don't think you necessarily need to wait for survey results to get back.
Okay.
I'm not downplaying the
Right,
survey. I think it's
right.
important to get that information.
Mhm.
But the whole purpose behind the moratorium aspect of this was to determine what the need is based upon vacancies. I think the evidence has demonstrated it's trending toward a higher percentage of vacancies, so there is an issue, and rents are dropping. So I think it would be important to maybe get some recommendations on tweaks to the zoning ordinance that may allow some other uses that might fill up some space. I know there was some discussion of not medical offices, but also, the more personal services, yeah.
And I think, a nice way to do that could be gradually doing that, so saying that there's certain things that are permitted when they're lower than a certain size, for example, like the health and fitness studios, maybe went under 2,000 square feet, so that you're not seeing like these giant facilities coming in. That's just a problem.
Well, we have a problem with traffic, and I think Lifetime is a big problem, a big contributor to the Long Lake traffic. I've had a number of people, they've got hundreds of people going there every day, every morning.
This is a much, thinking of that as a much smaller scale, not that big.
I think you're talking about like yoga or Pilates studios, and there's only,
Something that would enhance the marketability of the office space in the area. I think there was some discussion about how there's only one restaurant.
Yeah.
Maybe more restaurant space, maybe an ordinance tweak could encourage that.
One of the buildings that had physical therapy, they were permitted a use variance for physical therapy.
Okay.
But what did they want to do? Like a dentist or orthodontist? But that wasn't permitted. So that was a C1 property, because medical uses aren't permitted. And it seemed like it was, we thought, well, gee, we already allowed, we already allowed this through this variance, this physical therapy, but now we can't use it as something different. It had to be just that. And it was very specific in the minutes. But, kind of thinking big picture, what was the difference there? What would be the difference in the same amount of space, in a very similar type use?
Okay, but I'm sorry, I can't get my head around this. I understand what you're saying, Mark, to maybe look at some of these and change it, but how do we identify those? What do we change them to? And what's the time frame of getting that done, like in the next 30 days?
That's why I'm suggesting at least a 60-day extension, coupled with some direction maybe to the planners to come up with some suggestions to enhance the marketability of the office space that would still be consistent with the master plan, so that's not an issue.
Okay,
And then present that to the planning commission at the next meeting.
okay,
And then this would be part of the motion to extend the moratorium. It would just make the moratorium more defensible, because we're now taking action. We've been studying it for this period of time, but now this is driving towards some action being taken. And it may just be initial action, there may be further action taken, but that could be done post-moratorium, so.
okay. Thoughts, other commissioners?
I remember you saying that allowing new office cannibalizes the old office, right? So,
Potentially. I think it would be something to be mindful of.
so.
Kind of.
Yeah, well, I think there's a number of things we could do that, like, we've used the word tweak. There's a lot of tweaks in it. I think we have something coming up in this meeting tonight about sign situation. And we seem to run into these all the time with these office buildings, buying different kinds of signs and identifying who's in the building. And these are some things that we could maybe look at adjusting without losing our intent, that makes it more attractive for people to rent office space in the city. So I look at this as a very incremental process. I don't, I think people get afraid of doing, large sweeping actions, and I think a lot can be accomplished just by making incremental changes, but we've got to have some, to Mark's point, we've got to have some progress in that direction. So it doesn't have to be everything, just has to be something.
So Jill, does that give you guys and Eric time in the next 30 days to come and, because the planning commission too, this is great, what you did is great, but their question was, what are you asking of us?
Right.
So now, maybe the next phase is you come back and you specifically say to them, here's what we think would be a good thing for you to do. And then it's either yay or nay, right, Mark?
Well, it would be a suggestion for them. The planning commission then has a process for taking action on proposed zoning ordinance amendments. But it would at least set that ball in motion. And then, again, this is designed to make the moratorium a little bit more effective and not subject to attack. By showing some progress, incremental progress, that would get the issue in front of the planning commission. The planning commission would then maybe schedule the matter for a public hearing. Yeah, that would be another month, but it would show progress being made, and then the next time the city commission address it, you can say, the planning commission just finished their public hearing on that. We're gonna extend this for another 30 to 60 days because now we're going to be acting on it, on their recommendation. So it would just make the moratorium easier to defend when there's progress being made.
Okay.
Mark, can we meet more than once a month?
Absolutely. That was
The
a
plan commission meet
suggestion.
more than once a month?
I agree with you too. I think that's a really good idea.
I mean, this is really,
I know, it's taken too long.
Particularly in this situation where you really need to have some action
Yeah,
commence, so.
I agree, 100%, we should, but that would mean the planning commission, because they're the ones that are doing it, right?
Yes and no. I think you told the planning commission that you didn't ask their recommendation in the meeting. So it was
Well, I asked-
confusing to them. They were treated like, this is your ball of wax, this is your moratorium, this is what you're doing in the meeting. I don't think you empowered them to be rewriting any zoning or to take any of Jill's stuff and implement it. I think you said it was a city commission issue and we're in charge, you answer to us. So I think you need to, if you're gonna have them really evaluate, I think they need to know it's their job to do it and ask them to.
And I think I was probably part of that, because I said, when they asked what do they want us to do, I said, well, we haven't presented it to the city commission yet, so we don't know what the city commission would like you to do, what they want us to do.
Yeah,
So I think it was.
they were told,
Not but not as much as their opinion didn't matter, but that your body hadn't heard it all and made a recommendation or direction, what you wanted them to do. I couldn't tell them what to do, because you hadn't told them what to do yet. So that still comes after this.
we should have a
I
meeting.
think the ball's in our court is my point.
We should have two meetings, one in there, one in here, and get this thing done. I'm barely willing to vote for a moratorium tonight. I'm really upset that we've done this delay. It's disgusting. We have a private individual who's directly affected, and it's, no matter what you say, and a number of them, in fact, and we are rolling the wrong way. We gotta get this done. We want to have we're gonna have planning commission meeting there, we'll meet there, or we'll go in the other room. We gotta just get it done.
We can have,
I'm not worried who's ordering what, I wanna just get it done. Or even if we do nothing, get it done.
I agree, couldn't agree more. Mark?
I was just gonna suggest, there's nothing wrong with the city commission meeting more than once a month. And maybe what could be done would be a motion tonight to direct the planning consultants to come up with the recommendations, send those to the planning commission and urge them to have a special meeting of their own to address them, so that we can get this process moving, because once they get their process underway, then if we have a second city commission meeting in a month, we can move things along even quicker.
One option could
Do we have a right to control when the planning commission meets?
Yeah, joint meeting.
We wouldn't.
Yeah,
we
joint
wouldn't
meeting would be great.
We wouldn't be controlling it, we would just be requesting that they hold this meeting.
We have one person who writes motions up and does it right. Where's
No,
that?
I haven't been taking notes.
Oh, you
This isn't my bailiwick, I'm just not
Okay.
that comfortable, I'm not that confident that what I'd have to say is correct. I've been taking notes, but I don't feel confident in making a motion.
You could consider a joint meeting with the planning commission. We want to talk about ordinance language and feeling comfortable with that, and then asking the planning commission to hold a public hearing at their next meeting. That way, you see it, you'd all be working on it together, public hearing, and then it comes to you for adoption, and you've already seen it. And the planning commission will put its own stamp on it.
Can we do it next
as
Tuesday?
part of their
But do you think we
recommendation.
can have a solution to the moratorium with one
It would be
meeting?
a little bit quicker.
No, but we're justifying where we have a moratorium, even if we don't get it done in the next 2 months, if we really show some real effort to do it. I mean, just,
I think to
I
your
agree.
point, that if 2 months from now, there has been planning commission public hearing with a recommendation, and at the next city commission meeting, there's gonna be action taken, I think that's defensible. But, I mean, if we're 2 months from now and we're still talking about surveys, I think we have some problems.
Okay, so the motion is to have a meeting with the planning commission and the city commission within the next 2 weeks to work out the ordinances with the planners. Is that correct? Am I saying this right so far?
Yes.
Okay.
Do
Someone else has to
we
make a
want to
motion.
jump into a joint meeting right away, or do we want to discuss it as city commission meeting first, just to talk about and narrow down the ordinances that we think really are going to have any chance of getting changed or will have any impact relative to this project? Because I'm afraid if we all get together in the same room,
Yeah.
it'll turn into a very long meeting with maybe not any results.
it would be better than no meeting at all.
But is that the city commission's job, or is that the planning commission's job? Who takes the next
I
step?
think
Well,
ultimately-
that's part of the problem, is that the next step to be taken would have to be taken by the planning commission.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the city commission can meet multiple times a month, but until the planning commission undertakes the input from the planning consultant, conducts their drafting of the ordinance, whatever that may entail, scheduling the public hearing, holding that public hearing, making the recommendation, that's all up to the planning commission. There's really nothing for the city commission to do until that action takes place.
But could the city commission provide direction to the planning commission? We would ask you, the planning commission, to amend the
I
C1,
thought-
I1, O1, O2 districts to allow some of the uses that we talked about. And that would be-
That would make sense.
That would be some action.
Can you put something together really quickly, and then the city commission can review it, if it looks good, give it to the planning commission, and then they can get it done.
All you gotta do is give 48 hours notice, is it?
18 hours, yeah, as soon as you can come up with something, we can put something
We'll meet.
together.
We'll
We
meet.
can have they can have a meeting, 18 hours notice, you guys decide that looks good, let's give it to the planning commission. Here's the ordinances that look like, we could benefit from. And, you know, they're gonna do their own study, they may say, we don't agree or whatever, I don't know, but they, at least they'll have some direction. I would recommend that you write the direction very, very thoroughly, so they know what the direction is.
Yeah. Is that
Yes,
possible?
yes.
Okay. So now the motion is,
We could do it, can't we?
so now the motion is for the planners to come up with recommendations. There'll be a special city commission meeting to review and say, yes, that's what we want them to do. And then we'll have a special meeting for the planning commissioners for them to review the recommendations. Is that, we're all on the same page?
Within 2 weeks for the
Yep.
one, and before
Get
the
it
next
done.
meeting for the next. And
And
a
within
plan-
3 weeks with the other one. It's gotta be, yeah, If we can do it sooner, it would be better, because we're running into the holiday here.
We still have to extend the
Extend the
moratorium.
moratorium, yeah.
Yeah,
little bit.
and then the last part of that motion would be, and then move to expend the moratorium from June 12th for August,
Why lie? September 12th.
Yeah, that's kind of, August would be,
September's gonna be 3 months.
That's long.
Okay.
August.
to get us
And-
through
and
August
again-
would be August 11th, so we'd be good.
Through August 11th.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
And again, at that August 11th meeting, it may be extended again if there's progress being made and there's ordinance pending adoption, that kind of thing, so.
Okay. All right, so everybody understands, the planners are setting up the recommendations for the changes to the master plan. I'm sorry? Zoning ordinance. They're presenting it to the city commission. We'll have a special city commission meeting to review them.
Within how many days?
How many days you want, Alan?
How much time you need,
Yeah.
Jill, get this?
More items do you have on the agenda? Next week.
That's good.
Okay.
We're not rewriting everything.
9 days?
9 days?
9 days.
Is that okay?
What
Within
date?
9 days?
9 days.
The-
Notice for the meeting shall be
18th is
appropriately
on,
given.
19th is Friday, right?
18th, 16th?
18.
18th is Thursday.
Yep.
So you want to do the 18th, by June 18th?
The clerk is to provide appropriate notices.
Okay. And then, Alan, do you want a time limit for the planning commission too, then? I think we should.
The planning commission is going to be the 18th, right?
Now, we're the
Right.
18th, we're June 18th, and then we send the recommendations down to the planning commission. So let's say the planning commission has until the 30th of June? Does that work?
Is it possible to have you flip your, you got at 4 and they met at 6?
Oh, yeah, we could do that.
That's a good idea.
It's a great idea.
You're a problem solver.
That's what I do.
Do they have to get notice of the agenda? They just get notice that there's recommendations given to them. for requests.
There's a provision with
Yeah, let's do that. Is that okay? Yeah?
the bylaws.
Is that
I
everybody?
think so.
Okay, are you okay with that? Okay.
So 4 PM
Alex, does that work?
the
I think so.
18th of June?
All right, do I need to re-sign the, everybody have the motion, or Amy, do you have
I
it?
got it.
You got it?
Mhm.
Okay. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Right.
Opposed? Okay, motion passed. Okay, next item on the agenda is the commission will consider the request of the property owner at 4701 and 4705 Woodward Avenue for a variance from the sign ordinance to construct a new sign on the site.
All right, I'll give Jill a little bit of a break tonight. So my name's Eric Peach with Giffords Webster. The next item on the agenda is for a proposed sign addition to an existing sign at the location. This is within the O2 zoning district, also known as the JFK development site over the last few years. And it's zoned O2. And so what's before the commission tonight, City Commission, is the Planning Commission heard or took this into consideration at their meeting earlier this evening and did not support the request for the sign addition. The reason being is because what's proposed is the tenant name within the building, and the ordinance does not permit that. So from the Planning Commission's perspective, because it's not allowed, they did not approve the application before them, and so the applicant is here this evening to appeal to the City Commission. This is just an aerial of the site, and The location that we're focusing on tonight is right here along Woodward Avenue and the entrance to the site. There's an existing sign structure there that consists of the address numbers solely. So it's 40701 through 40705. This was an approved sign back in June of 2024 as part of an overall comprehensive site sign proposal for the overall site. So this was the monument sign that was proposed, and again, it was approved by the Planning Commission and the City Commission, and it was stated within the minutes that no tenant signs would be included on this monument sign. So what's before you, what you see here that's current today is in agreement with the ordinance, permissible by the ordinance. But what's proposed is a tenant name on top of the sign. So when we look at the dimensions of Chapter 16 and what's permissible for sign standards, everything that you see here is permissible in terms of the height, the width, and the area of the sign. It's just a matter of fact that Morgan Stanley as a tenant name is not permissible. So it's a pretty straightforward request. The applicant is here to maybe give some background in representation with the Morgan Stanley, the new tenant into the building. And this is just a representation showing that there's exterior illumination that lights the sign during the night. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, the sign structure, as it stands as a structure, meets the ordinance, but Morgan Stanley as a tenant name does not.
Okay, is that all? Anybody have any questions for Eric? You have any questions?
You looking
Okay.
for us to respond now, or you want someone else?
Well, the applicants, we'll have the applicant.
You got an applicant here?
The applicant's in the
Oh,
audience.
there's she is. Oh, I'm sorry. I think we will discuss which sign it doesn't even have the right number.
Good evening. My name is Marianne Dieters. I'm with Metro Signs and Lighting, and I'm here on behalf of our client, Morgan Stanley. They are in the process of moving into this building. They are the primary tenant, and the owner of the building has approved that they would love to have this added to the existing sign structure. The sign does sit back quite a ways from the street, and there will be, traffic going in trying to find them. So, as you said, it does comply with everything except the fact that, it isn't the name of the building, which I understand is your ordinance. So we're here on behalf of them to request approval for this, and I'll answer any questions.
Is the lease dependent upon this sign being installed?
I don't believe so.
That's an honest answer.
Have they considered naming the building the Morgan Stanley Building? The landlord?
That's a great question. I don't know that. I'm sure that,
I'm sure you can appreciate the problem we have here is that if we approve this, then we might as well be approving everything.
Is it?
Because I don't see where there's a special circumstance here that would necessitate letting this go. And I don't really personally have a problem with it, but my opinion is not what matters here. What matters is what the ordinance says, and are there any extenuating circumstances that would allow this? And I can't see it, so.
is this the only area that doesn't allow it, or is it in the entire township?
The entire
Okay,
city, yeah.
I wasn't sure.
We just had, so for those who are not on the planning commission, was it last, two months ago, I think it was, we just had in the Bloomfield Parkway, someone come in, and it was dependent on putting their name on the building, but the owner of the building said, okay, I'll change the name, and it's now called the Harness Building. And so that was one way that we allowed that to go on, because he called it the Harness. Now, he's got 65% more of that office he has to now try to fill. But that's, yeah. Otherwise, we'd have all these different signs on buildings.
I wonder, I tell you, I came here ready to let you have this for a different reason, because I see a junky Merrill Lynch sign on the street that wouldn't comply today with the ordinance, with usually the wrong amount on the stock return for the day. I remember when during the recession, they had the name of like Ford Motor up for 3 months at 27. And I just,
Well, I think the course of action then is to change the ordinance, not to
make an exception.
Not to
because
make
then it's gonna be
exceptions.
Katie bar the
And-
door.
And that's, this is exactly what I was referring to, is this is something that we could take some action on.
I
Make it
agree.
more amenable to landlords to rent their space.
I agree.
And, but for us to just make exceptions because we want to be nice about it, I mean, that's not the right way to do it.
I think
I agree.
You know,
Sorry.
I agree.
Appreciate your
They-
patience, too.
They need something more for paying $45 a foot and changing the market without cannibalizing another building. Because they didn't. They're moving out of Birmingham offices up here. And it's great to have the tenant there paying premium rent. I mean, we have to look.
But it doesn't mean like if we do properly assess this and we do properly change the ordinance, like you're saying, then they can add the sign then if we
Right.
change the ordinance. So maybe,
See you later.
well, no.
Come
I
back
mean-
in 3 months.
Yeah, Mark,
we will.
I
question
move to
for you?
table this.
Hold on just a second.
No.
No, Mark,
I just wanted to mention, there was some discussion about looking at the ordinance. There have been, it's been around for a while, but fairly recent decisions made about sign ordinances in particular. And I think your ordinance, you may want to take a look at it.
It's on our list.
Okay.
What happened?
it's been quite a while we've looked at that sign ordinance. It's
If-
been-
I think
yeah.
there's some pretty easy things, without changing what you would see, there's some things that we would modify.
Okay. Well, that would be
Whatever you could do to
beneficial.
try to simplify that, to make it,
Should we table this for a little while? Is that what you were suggesting?
Well, we don't want to table it because then you can't come back, right?
No,
we
she
can
could
make
come
it.
back, but you can come back anyway, right? Do we have to table it?
If you rejected
This is
it,
really on two tracks. I think what should be done tonight is decide the appeal. Decide that, but I think also addressing the sign ordinance would be something that you may want to take some action on, which may
Well, that'll be a
also
part of your
solve the
recommendation.
problem here.
probably, So,
So, there's two things. First of all, we either say yay or nay to the appeal, because the planning commission said no. And so she's appealing to us, and so we either say yes or no.
okay.
And then the next steps will always be, we're gonna, as a recommendation, you guys come back to the planning commission saying you need to take a look at your sign ordinance. Okay. So, do I have a motion?
Motion to deny.
Second?
second.
Okay, all those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll work on it.
Can you put these on a list and give it
Okay.
to us before the?
The next
before
item,
our meeting?
Jamie, you're just running to get up here.
Been waiting since 4 o'clock.
The commission will consider the water and sewage rate recommendations and consider adopting the following amended water supply rates for 26 and 27 resolution and amended sewage disposal rates for 2026 and 2027 resolution. Jamie?
Jamie, just real quick, you talked to us about this before, right? Not that long ago? And is this just the final recommendation?
So during budgeting and during conversations about the Chesterfield Culvert and other projects in the award of the projects that we're doing to, clean up the sewers up there kind of in the either far eastern corner, it was always a conversation about projects coming forward, coming up, and that we deal with during the rate setting. So the county on sewer and GLWA to Saukwa on the water main. And then we've had these capital improvement fees that we've collected to really avoid the bonding costs and those extra costs of projects, whether they're your own or whether they're passed through from WRC on the sewer side, which has been able to keep, if we got to charge for those interest, charge for those fees and all that debt service costs, this gets passed through to the residents. So we had a fee put in there for debt service. That debt has now been retired, so we are proposing to take that off. We promised the residents that at some point when that bond was paid off, that we would take that debt service fee off. So we're recommending that has happened. as well. So we've got, you know, good cash balances, things are going pretty well. So, kind of just, I don't really want to jump all the way to the end, but really just I want to point out that of all these things to get over to the average quarterly bill, what's highlighted in blue is what you guys control, okay? Not fully. We meet with WRC and go through what they recommend every single year for water and sewer projects, water and sewer maintenance, and we work with them to facilitate that through. And we do a good job with them, just kind of organizing that. So we're not trying to do too much too fast, or maybe the city will do some of it out of your reserves. You kind of just bounce back and forth and go there. So really, this is where you're at. So on the rate side, the dollar per gallon, it's not gallons, but just for simplicity's sakes, in your dollars per gallon, you're down to only 50 cents. It's 1,000 cubic feet. It's a lot more, but just the fee per volume of water, you're down to 50 cents, and I'm recommending you keep that because if that needs to go up in the future, it's easier to have a line item there. And then going across on water, that 250 is the final going down to zero. That is the old debt service that is gone, leaving the other CIP, we say, but this is just maintenance. This is sewing lining. We've talked about having $600,000 in lining projects over the last few years. If you remember phase 1, phase 2, this is where the money comes from to pay for that. Well, that's on the water side, but on the sewer side, it's still the same thing down there at the bottom, kind of leaving that all alone. So, I keep saying this, the average quarterly bill, there is no such thing as a perfectly average customer in Bloomfield Hills, right? They're all over the place, but if you really look at what the typical usage is and the typical meter size is, what ultimately this will result in is about a 3.2% increase to your residents, and that's at the very, very bottom. And there's no average quarter, right? Summers are higher usage, winters are lower usage, et cetera, et cetera. So, but we always try to make that equivalent so that really you can understand where folks are at. And if you look, going back all the way to, go all the way back to the top of the list at 18, when the service providers have been at 4 to 6%, and you guys, in all the projects we've done since 18, and all the work that's been done to keep those kind of rate increases over the years is pretty phenomenal. I don't have a reference of a community that's been able to do that. So it's going pretty good. So where does this money go? And I'll say this again, nothing on this list is we're asking for any kind of approvals at this meeting. These all come with proposals and work for the commission to consider as we move forward. But we've got leftovers for that grant that we got through Oakland County. We are on the second phase of the sanitary work. Remember, this is about a $1.2 million spread over a couple fiscal years. That's just going to keep kind of happening. And we left in some emergency updates. When the emergency planning to shut down and second water taps, and when the water main went down on Lasser for a while, a couple years ago, the emergency planning and what we needed to do with that on an emergency basis is not, and we'll bring all this back for you later, this is not what I think if there's a break and I gotta do emergency service with Bloomfield Township, I don't think 2 days is an appropriate amount of time to put your people out of water, and then 2 or 3 days of boil water if that were to happen. So we've been working with the county to monitor and meter to maybe do something that could be up and running in hours or automatic. So that's the $1 million that's out there right now. That would be to add more connections to Bloomfield Township and work on that. So these again are all what we think is out there, but we always come back, work with administration, and come back here for proposals for this commission to do before we move forward. So it's a 2-year projection. The idea being is you hover around $6 million of reserves or some minimal reserves up at the county. I think that's a decent number. It might be a little bit high. But I say this question: what is a water main, a 16-inch water main under Woodward Avenue cost should it break? Right? It's millions and millions of dollars just on day one. So I think we're in a good stead at that point between the two projects. So ultimately, these are what show up in your resolution. Is the water rates become almost $58 per MCF per MEU, which is the equivalent meter sizes, about 3% or $30 for just under 5% on the water. Sewer side is really hovering around 1%, And the MEU cost is actually going down because we're giving up some of those charges and those costs. So those are fixed fees. So the top number is on usage and the bottom is based on meter size, and those are fixed fees, readiness to serve, for capital debt, pass through. I want to make your system, your sewer system is being charged 100% fixed, and your water bills went from 0 to 25% fixed and are headed towards 60% fixed. Your debt service, what I mean by fixed is, fixed monthly costs. They set it every year and it changes, but ultimately you're just going to get a monthly bill, regardless of how much water you use. So your net system, your costs, capital's fixed, debt's fixed, admin's fixed. Now your service providers become fixed. That's why we have gotten to a spot where we are collecting some fixed so we can match those match expenditures and how they're paid with the revenues and how we're collecting. So you're in a very good position to do that. But we keep working through there. So the bottom line is the two resolutions are there for you. Pass them one at a time. The elevator speeches, all increases shown are from service providers, and your portion of this overall rate is going down. Happy to answer any questions you may have. Typically, we ask for the resolutions one at a time, right? And they're both in your packet.
Go back a slide.
Sure.
So you're saying the actual balance is, I saw that in the Sandra's numbers, is 7.1, right?
Yep. And so you'll have one more quarter, that was as of 5/19, and then you'll get another quarterly billing that goes out in June, right? Or you kind of comes in June, so that's a projected through, that's the end of, no, excuse me. So we're projecting at the end of 26, so this is the 2-year number, and then that's, the 8.5 is a 2-year number. So we're at 7.1 now. We think there'll be additional revenue coming in before the end of fiscal year 26. That's 1 quarter, 3 quarters of the new rate coming in, plus the tap fees, for a total revenue base plus reserves of 8.5 million in the next 2 fiscal years. Then the expenses are beneath that to show you where that money is allocated in a 2-year basis, as estimating what will be at the end of essentially at the end of, let's see, that's 26, 27, and then 27, 28.
What's sanitary works on 4 and 5?
Remember how we went out in Oakland County, found a whole bunch of sewers that needed repairs, and that estimate was about 1.2 million. And we've done the first 600 and some thousand of it, and now we'll have another round of that at some point to bring, in this fiscal year, we'll have another round of that, which we will bring the recommendation and the cost to do that. But I would say you've got $500,000 a year and just keeping up. And it's better to do that than to wait for them to fail. It's like lining sewers and doing internal repairs versus dig ups. So generally that work is kind of winding down on the first one, but we're anticipating another round of tapes and recommendations from the county, and so every year there'll just be more, let's call it heavy maintenance, capital maintenance, not necessarily just clean in and fix it.
We always had $1 million for emergency updates?
Nope, this really came out of the idea of, which has been the last couple of years, of really trying to figure out, in the event of a summertime failure in your northern district, in your northern service district, how do you maintain water? And we can do it. We've done it twice now with Bloomfield Township, but it was planned. It was a 2 to 3 day process to get it all in there. And if we had a break on a Friday night, we will put the north half of the city out of water. Very down at the bottom, we'll have some, and probably won't have you up and running for water for a couple days and boil water after that. So we don't think that's an appropriate level of service. And we're researching that, we're getting that information. When we come back, we think there's some hard improvements to be made so that that level of service can be hours or automatic.
And that would be connectivity to the townships?
Yeah, it's,
water
it's,
supply?
yeah, the township's been a great partner, and when we planned it, the township redistricted their own water system so that the pressures coming into the city were manageable by our system. Okay, that means we had to go around, close valves, they did a great service to the city when we had the two planned ones. If we're unplanned, there's no time, it took 2 days to go turn valves, reroute water so that the pressure was there. So we might put in a new PRV, we might put in some additional connections so that we don't have that problem. That's really come to fruition in the last maybe year or so as we've been working with Oakland County in trying to figure out emergency operations plan that we could put in writing. So if something happened, this is what we do, and you just can't start going into the township and monkeying around with their system, you know, in the middle of the night. Doesn't work. So there'll be a report and there'll be a recommendation, and then I think we should start working on some of those projects.
Do we lose control of our waters?
Nope. This would be simply an emergency or a planned shutdown of your main feeders. You have one feeder coming in through the north, plus 4 emergency connections that are all at higher pressure. You have a separate connection to the south, so the southern district would get water coming in from basically Birmingham, from Bloomfield, coming up. But you guys know as well as anybody that the elevation down at Corton and the elevation up at Lasser and Hickory Grove is tremendously different, and we can't push water up that far. So it's
What's the, so you're doing sanitary work on 4 and 5s this year for 600,000, and then again?
Yeah, it's, again, the
600,000?
point out, estimated. I think, and I just mentioned it, I think that for sake of argument, $500,000 a year to go around, line, replace, fix sewers before they fail is something that is just going to have to be kind of constant. And it's cheap, it's expensive, but it's still cheaper than digging things up or waiting for them to fail and putting basement in there. So we do about a quarter of the city every year or two. So every 4 to 5 years, we're back into the systems and fixing the ones we find. So if that makes sense.
So what's the reliability study then?
So the reliability study recommendations kind of dovetail into the emergency connections, and that is required every 4 or 5 years. You have to do what's known as a reliability study for your water system. All the what ifs. Where's your vulnerabilities, how you handle that. And out of that comes those recommendations. Instead of, that's a year later. I guess my point is that's a placeholder for now, but ultimately you might have to come into, the emergencies may take care of all of it, or we might have to look at some other internal things, if you will.
So you report on this, Sandra, every year, because at the end of this year, we should be able to monitor what the balance is on this fund, right?
Yes. What our cash is, yes.
Yeah, what our cash is. So I realize these are estimates, but I know one year we were like over 10 million, and it was because the estimated expenses didn't come through.
Yeah, because we pushed things off, or we didn't need them, or we did something lighter. And so the worst thing to do is to go the opposite direction, which is to cut it down to nothing and then have an emergency problem in the next year and have this yo-yo effect of the rates. We've been trying to smooth them out and ultimately work through these projects as they come, but sometimes the county, they televise and it's late in the season, or something else happens. They're just timing to say that. I think from a fund balance perspective, take away from this is a decent fund balance. It's probably a little high.
Yeah.
But there's projects out there that are forthcoming, and there's still more Oakland County projects.
It's just, what we have to balance as a commission is, when you have $10 million sitting in a water and sewer fund, and then we go, yeah, we're gonna raise your rates, and they're gonna, we have to.
The people gotta be realistic. I mean, it's like, none of you are old enough, but one person here, to remember what it's like in the mid-late 70s when institutions in Detroit, which were these beautifully built buildings in the 1890s and early 1900s, had to come down because they hadn't been maintained perfectly. And I'm now watching it at a number of religious institutions where the roofs repair costs are like 12 times what the cost of the building was when they were built in 1972. If you don't have the money ready to go when you need it, we are dead. I want to, you just keep this fund, I'd rather get criticized than keep the rates up. And run this, because this reserve is a cost that's hidden away. It's just, it is, it's.
I use the number $10 million, actually for both systems. That's not Bloomfield Hills necessarily, because you have the county, they have resources, et cetera. But again, I look at a 16-inch water main under Woodward Avenue. If that were to break this afternoon, where are you gonna get your funds to go make that repair, right? That's a reasonable, right? That's a reasonable thing to think about when you just looked at the 14-mile collapse of the pipe. And
I couldn't agree more.
But we're not trying to intentionally just ratchet it up. We're trying to balance what's the right thing for your residents with the right money to have and the right projects to do at the time. And as mentioned, really this entire increase this year is pass through, which is always something good to do, right? Just pass through what you're getting and then work on your own to kind of limit that. And we've been doing that for the last 2 or 3 years. At some point that'll run out. We won't be able to do that, but we're doing pretty good so far.
Just understand, we have to ask questions for the residents.
No, I totally agree.
And I want to ask you, how can the middle of the desert in California have lower water bills than us?
I will say, show me the evidence of that, because I've heard of all that and people bring that up. Detroit water, or Great Lakes water, is some of the highest quality.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about a few things, I was at Birmingham last night talking about this a little bit too. And they were talking, and I was like, all right, a gallon of water weighs like 8 pounds or something. It's the only utility that has weight to it. And you're asking to deliver that from there to here whenever you want to turn it on, upstairs or downstairs. It's super energy intensive, is whatever. So I look at Arizona or whatever, wherever they're bringing it in from, just in your mind, but they might break it down and say, oh, it's $5 per 100 cubic feet. And oh, yours is $50? Well, no, yours is per 1,000 cubic feet. So you're still getting the cheapest, best water, I think, around, but. Or they're drinking gray water, so figure that out. I don't know. Or they're using the gray water for their lawns, right? And so their drinking water bills are cheap because they're not using drinking water for irrigation.
They don't have lawns.
And they don't have lawns.
That's true. They got
Yeah.
those
So it does come up. No, I appreciate the questions because this is important. It is something that you guys have been diligently working on for 20 years.
Anybody else have any questions? Does anybody have a motion?
I move to approve the amended water supply rates for 2026, 2027.
Do one at a time.
Yes.
Do one at a time.
That was a good movement. That was a good motion then.
Yeah.
That's for the
What?
water.
Water,
and then-
yep. No, we got it.
We got it.
Second?
Second.
Okay,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next one? You just hold on the first one.
Okay, I move to approve the amended sewage disposal rates for 2026 and 2027.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Yeah. All right, Jamie, thank you.
Thank you.
You can
Thank
go
you.
back to the back of the room. All right, next item on the agenda, the commission will consider the final budget amendment for fiscal year 2026. Is this you, Sandra?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So we're approaching the end of fiscal '26, and at the end of each fiscal year, we do a deep dive analysis of where we are expecting our budget to actuals, and so this year is no different. And so there is a budget amendment in front of you. I'm happy to say that the amendment is for higher revenues. It's approximately $305,000 additional. And then on the expenditure side, we're expecting about $75,000 addition to what is in the budget. That's for the general fund. And then for the capital fund, that is more of just moving money from the fund balance to a project that wasn't completed the previous fiscal year. So I have in the memo the details of each difference or increase that we're expecting, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it. Otherwise, I would appreciate an approval.
Anybody have any questions? No questions? Can I have a motion to
Move
approve
to.
the budget amendment?
I move that we approve the fiscal year 2026 final budget amendment dated June 9th, 2026 in the form included in our agenda packet tonight.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Sandra. Okay, the commission, next item, the commission will hear an update from the city attorney regarding the aqueous film forming foams. Say that really quick.
No. I did prepare a letter. I don't know if this is something you want to be considered going into closed session or not.
Did you want to go into closed session?
If you feel it's necessary, I did do a letter for the review basis for.
No, I think it's a common thing. I think it's a common thing that's in many communities, it's going on right now.
Okay.
And frankly, I think you guys already received information on this, if I
Just like we would-
read my email correctly. What this is about, there's a class action suit that's pending in South Carolina. It was a series of lawsuits challenging the, this is the firefighting foam they use for liquid fires. There was some challenge to it and its impact upon drinking water. And it's been subject of litigation. It's consolidated in South Carolina. I believe there were several hundred suits anyway, maybe even over 1,000. They've all been consolidated pursuant to a federal court practice for, frankly, resolution. What's before you is a letter from the law firm of Kirk, Huth, Lang, and Badalamante, proposing that the city retain them to represent the city in the class action suit. There's also a fee agreement attached to this. So it's really, I'm not sure what the value would be of any resolution of this. I do know that there are time constraints. There's an upcoming need to produce a baseline test in July. I think it's July 1st. And I believe that entering into this agreement would take care of that. You're part of this class action because you're a water supplier and also you receive your water from GLEWA. So if there's any questions.
I do business, I just gotta disclose, I do business on a regular basis with food. They've sent me work in the past, and I've sent work on for them to others. I checked this out independent of Mark, and I hate these class actions because there's billions of dollars involved and the lawyers take a third of it. But the reality is that someone's gonna get paid. They got a class action case. It helps us, we have to have, this local guy, what he does is he's soliciting all the local, writing to all the local communities to do the work. If we don't use him and get it done, we just won't get any money. There was a lot of, at least I'm a city attorney in Trenton, there was a bonanza that, what was it, the Sackler family, when we got the money there, and I would like to, you know, I think that this is, I think it's an appropriate thing for us to sign. And, I don't think this is the big money of Sackler, but I couldn't believe the money we got for the, you know, they were, what do you call the opioid?
The opioid settlement funds, yeah.
We did not go after the Sacker family,
You-
did
you-
we?
you
We didn't
lost
get any
a-
money.
we lost
And I'm-
$100,000
I know
with it.
families who lost their
We
sons
lost
here.
$100,000.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, is there gonna be big
I'm
money? I
surprised
don't-
we didn't join.
Yeah, this is, I don't think this is big money, but I think that when these people come to us, there's no reason for us not to do it. I would rather your firm was getting the 8% than them, and,
Well,
you know, give me a discount to my.
This is
city.
not an area of practice that
I know.
we're involved in.
I know.
And I just want to confirm that this is not an expenditure. This is a contingent fee arrangement.
Absolutely contingent.
So there's no money to be paid. If there is a settlement awarded, the firm would take a percentage of that. I believe it's 25 and some change.
25 and 8, yeah. He's getting 8 for signing
Right.
local communities up, and that law firm does
Right.
a lot of the work in Macomb County.
So we wouldn't have to, it's all contingent, but what other duties would we have or actions would we have to take that might incur expenses or, just put us in a situation where we're having to come up with information or testing? I think you mentioned something.
Yes, and I don't believe that would be a responsibility of the city. I believe the law firm is taking care of all that reporting requirements.
Does our city use this aqueous film forming foams to fight fires?
I believe you're part of, you don't use it?
No, I don't think we do.
You ever
So how
did?
would we be able to benefit?
We did years ago.
We certified several years ago that we had not used
Yeah, we don't use
PFAS
it.
foam for a while. I can get you the exact date, but we don't.
A while meaning a couple months, a while meaning 5 years?
Several years ago, we certified that we did not use the PFAS foam. We used a product called Fire Caps.
Have we ever used the foam, you think?
I would have to get you that information. That I don't know.
We may not get anything, but we should probably, I would think we should sign this. I'd move that we approve
So,
this.
well, if we used it, but could we legitimately be part of the suit if we never used it?
If we didn't use it, we may not get any money.
If we join the suit and it turns out we're not eligible to recover anything, that's it.
We didn't pay anything.
We don't
get
pay anything in. This is just signing to get our representation at the committee that's settling these actions.
It's like when you get there's a class action suit against something or
That is
whatever,
exactly
and then you
what
want
this
to do
is.
it, and you sign your name.
Yep.
Hey, I got $600 from Mayo Clinic. Just so you know,
got-
I don't even
I got $3.50 from Verizon.
Well, there you go. Now, I see.
Oh, wow.
So this is just saying, yeah, put our
Yeah.
name in.
This is to preserve your right to a collection if there is an award to the city.
I move
Okay.
we approve.
What are your thoughts on this?
I just don't know what I'm signing here. I mean, I know what I'm signing, but I don't know any of the details. I don't know what kind of money there might be.
Okay.
and I just,
haven't had time to read the.
Just feels a little
It looks like
off to me.
Mark has.
I know
We don't even
And
know if
that's-
we ever used it.
that's kind of the nature of this type of a suit. The damages haven't been allocated yet. There's a committee, and I believe Mr. Huth is in.
How could we be
agreement.
how could we be an interested party here? If we don't use.
It's the way the class was described. A class action, you describe who you think the plaintiffs are going to be, the people that are eligible to recover. You make a broad description of those, and then after the settlement is reached and there's a pool of money, there is a distribution process, and typically there's different categories of the class members, and each one gets a piece of the pie.
So if Troy still or Bloomfield Township still uses, or used this up until recently, and there was a fire of a house on the border of our city, it still could be absorbed into our water system?
Sure.
I believe that is.
So even if you didn't use it,
It affected our.
or
water.
if they came to one of our fires using it in our city, it would be in our
Water,
system.
yeah.
Is that true? I'm just
No, that-
trying to
yeah,
assess
yeah.
whether it
Part of what the,
potentially affected our city.
part of the time constraint that was mentioned in the correspondence is there's a need to submit some testing to establish a baseline. So I would imagine this is going to have something to do with whether there's presence in the drinking water here, and if not, in the future, if it's detected, that may be a barometer of damage. I haven't seen any of the complaints. They've all been consolidated. But again, just from the description of this process, I guess in my mind, there's not really a downside. You're not being asked to spend any money on this. As I understand it, the law firms are handling all the expenses and the litigation expenses and any testing requirements. And the only thing you're doing is signing up to preserve your right to collect if there is an award.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve this contract.
A second? Anybody second?
I would say move to adopt the resolution and authorize the city manager to sign the retainer agreement.
I move to
Okay.
approve this, to accept this.
Alice, do you have a second?
Second.
Yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed?
Abstain.
Okay. You're great. You can do that. Okay, next item on the agenda, the commission will hear city manager comments. Dave?
The commission wanted us to send letters regarding the light at Hickory Grove and Losser. As you know, most of the folks that were here last time were not residents that we know of. And so we were gonna send a letter out. We kind of took a poll of the commission, and we got some different sort of reactions. So we didn't send the letter out. We want to make sure that we know what the direction of the full commission is to send this letter out. And I also thought I'd let you know that the most recent cost of this light that they were talking about, the Oakland County Road Commission, our part of that would be $1.2 million. So I just thought it would be important for the commission to know this is a big expenditure that could be coming up, and there may be, you may want to have some more discussion about, is this the right path that we should be taking?
And the roundabout was about half of that, right?
What about the roundabout?
About a third of that.
So I spoke with Mike McCready over at Bloomfield Township.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to let him know that there was, the whole room of people was from his township. And he said, I know, I'm well aware of it. And he was really promoting the whole roundabout idea. And he said, they have to slow down. He said the ones he witnessed on Maple Road are large roundabouts, and people go faster in the double lane and blah, blah, blah. But these slow ones really slow people down. So he would like us to revisit the idea. It would help with flow of traffic probably, but it wouldn't help with people crossing the street. And he said there could be signals and people have to stop when people cross. He said they still absolutely have that. And I said, but Mike, it doesn't, I mean, they told us that it means more, shorter distance between each car gap and more frequent. And he said, yes, but the roundabout's really great. So I just am reporting that he, you know, that's what the township would like. And I reported to him that the people in his city would prefer to stop the signal. And
It's costly. I just, it was kind of shocking, and after, sort of an afterthought after the last meeting we discussed it, I just thought the city commission should know that this is, for the city, you know, we have a $13 million budget, and that come up with $1.2 million for something. We may want to discuss a little more.
But they didn't, the two gentlemen that were here didn't recommend the light. They recommended the roundabout.
They recommended the roundabout, but the second recommendation would be the light that was more robust, that had the ability to have all the crosswalks and all that.
But they didn't think it would be as effective as the roundabout, as I remember.
We do have roundabouts by me, and they work well, but I didn't want to give that opinion last time.
I think they're
Was it-
effective
was it
for
supposed to
keeping
be
the traffic
just-
moving.
but they're not effective for brakes and traffic to cross, right?
Right, that's the only
Was
downside.
the township contributing to the light?
No, and I double checked with that, and the light is the responsibility of the county and the city. Now, the county does work for, a township uses the county to repair the roads and lights and those sorts of things. So I don't know if that's why, but we would have to split the cost with the county, the city with the county.
It's a pretty,
But the roundabout,
it's a tough burden.
the township would participate in the payment,
No.
as I remember.
If we oppose doing anything, what will be done in your estimate, and what will that cost the city?
if we don't do anything about it?
And what will the cost of the city be?
Well, I think you'd have to use data, like what type of accidents are happening, what sort of,
They reported there were 40 accidents, people trying to turn off.
and that we would have to look to that study or evaluation, look at the data and what sort of impact or liability that poses. I do agree with you with the what I see with roundabouts personally is difficult to cross. It's more difficult to cross than lights, from my experience. That's the only component of it. I think traffic moves a lot better, but my concern is that those people crossing.
Mm-hmm.
If you
'cause
could put a
it's
stop
offset.
sign in somewhere, just long enough, if there was a stop sign put back on Losser, that would alleviate the problem of, ability for people to walk across.
Yeah, that part of it, I don't know if they could do some lights or something, but typically that's not how roundabouts work. They just slow down to about.
No, I mean, like,
Five to-
so they have the roundabout, and then when they're coming south on Losser, you put the stop sign back where the
further back.
school entrance to the field is.
Could the county propose some kind of a hybrid solution, because not over 90% or maybe even 98% of the time, the roundabout is just working like the roundabout works, and then you need some small portion of time where you need to cross, and instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater here, something that works really well for traffic flow, but because we don't have this element of being able to cross, but that's only a very small percentage of the time that intersection is.
Brad, isn't that what they've got?
See if we, what they say about the person that was here seemed, the traffic engineer seemed very knowledgeable. Maybe he'd have some ideas on what you can do for crossing. Maybe there's some sort of.
Well, they mentioned lights and some things and some markings and things like that, so it seems like there's gotta be some kind of a hybrid solution that would work well, so at least when you need to cross, you can stop the traffic, you can cross, and then it starts to flow again.
I thought there was some type of lighting system that allowed people to walk.
I have
across
seen that
across
in Oakland County,
the middle belt.
Tinkin, and I've seen that. So yeah, we'll look into that.
Okay.
The 1.3 is not gonna, we've already done our budget.
Will be one.
That would,
Right, two.
But probably what I
They
think.
wouldn't even build it till after the Woodward
Right.
thing's done. So
And they
2
would-
years out.
And they would do this roundabout sooner, but I'll check back in with them. And regarding the letters, what's your thought? I mean, we
What's in the
certainly.
letter again, please?
I think that some commission members want us to send a letter out to, well, it's a kind of a mixture. We weren't sure if we were just going to send it to our own residents or in addition to some of the folks here in this room, let them know that we're, going to work on it, we're working with the county, that sort of thing. So I asked Amy to take a poll. She took a poll, called each one of you, sort of had different ideas, and then we thought, well, there's really nothing we can do. We have to approach the full commission to understand what you want us to do with these letters. So I'm at a little bit of a loss of what to do with these letters.
Do we have to do it today?
No, certainly don't have to.
Have you written the letter, or is it just?
Oh, yeah, Amy?
Yes,
Okay.
I shared the letter with you. I think you all gave me feedback. There was a ranking of which, when the we're going to send it to the Pine Ridge neighborhood, the Woodwood neighborhood, and anyone that lived on Lasser between Hickory Grove and Long Lake, and anyone that lived on Hickory Grove between Lasser and Woodward. And the feedback that we were looking for from the residents who we were sending it to was, here are the 2 options that the county presented, and we were going to provide the insert to describe that the 2 options, the signal and the roundabout, and then ask them to give us feedback on it. So when I pulled you all, I did not get at least 3 of you that agreed on to send the letter or not, so that's why we're talking about it now.
and so you're really only sending it to our residents?
Yes.
Because we can't
Yes.
take, this is a budget item for people who pay taxes in our
Yes.
city. So,
Right.
So, but
Did
to
we include the
Commissioner
cost
Ackerman's
difference
point,
in the letter? Are
there
we informing
there
them?
is not an urgency at this point.
Yeah. You want us to
If you
find out
want to
more?
wait and
Well,
see if there's a
I just think that the
solution.
residents might feel
School's out
differently
now,
if they
isn't it?
feel like they're gonna have an assessment or something, or
I'd like to wait another month.
or a, you know, stoplight versus no assessment for the.
We should be able to, the cost of maybe a roundabout, I think we have funding, we have local road funds, we have funding we can probably work, we have tri-party funding, we have different ways to fund that. But at the $1.2 million, that's significant.
Well, we have 2 years. Could we apply for a grant for that?
You know, I got.
Given the school is there and the safety issue for the kids?
I am convinced that the DOT will have money for you if we do this right. Because the cause of this.
Department of
problem-
Transportation?
Absolutely. The cause of the problem is Square Lake and Telegraph, two state travel routes.
We can certainly try to apply for grants.
I think we should. I tell you, I look at the money they give away from our stupid airports. Little runways, which, grass runway, I mean.
So, okay, so I think what we're trying to say is, let's take a look at some grants and things like that, we got some time, okay? Is that what you're looking for an answer on?
Yes, and then we'll just hold off on the letter for now.
Is that, is everybody okay with this?
Yeah.
You okay? Yes. Okay. All right.
That's all I
More to
had.
come. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second that.
Okay. We're done.